Hey everyone, it's Enjoy English School. Yo! Today is February 17th. We're on pages 34 and 35. It is day 2 of our biography lesson called Ed Jackson Doing Everything He Can to Survive.
没错，我们今天要继续介绍昨天介绍过的这个人物哦，人物叫做 Ed Jackson。那他之前呢是橄榄球员，然后呢他在爬这个西姆龙峰的时候，跟着他的团队一路上去，碰到了一些很大的状况哦，还会困在山的一侧，有人掉到这个裂缝里头，而且呢那个救援的直升机要到了第二天早上才能来救，那段时间零下30度，好辛苦，对不对？那我们今天要继续介绍这个我们的主角 Ed Jackson， 他之前发生的意外让他变成瘫痪的这个过程是怎么回事。
All right, friends, we're back with Enjoy English School. Anthony gave us a nice little reminder of yesterday's story. Probably the most important thing to know is that Ed Jackson was climbing a mountain. They had a very difficult time. But what was strange is that he is a quadriplegic. He's a man that has problems in his arms and legs. So how can he climb a mountain? Let's learn about that today. Paragraph 1 begins, Ed Jackson's life-changing injury happened 5 years earlier.
好，我们来看第一段的第一句话哦，他就告诉你说了 Ed Jackson 在5年前受的伤呢，改变了他的人生。他里面提到 Ed Jackson's life-changing injury。 好， life-changing 就是改变生命的，好， injury 当然指的是这个伤害，对不对？是在5年前的时候发生的。
On that fateful day, he dove into a swimming pool without realizing how shallow it was.
好，他告诉你说 on that fateful day， 在那命运的一天哦，决定命运的时候，他说 he dove into a swimming pool without realizing how shallow it was. 这个 dove 的话，我自己的习惯会用 dive 的过去式 dived， 但也有人用 dove 这个字。
Yeah, I feel both of those. Dive, dove, dived, dived. Those are kind of acceptable. Sometimes they're more colloquial, 比较口语, so watch out. And honestly, there's a lot of irregular verbs, so you never know when one will sneak up on you.
没错哦，提到这个 sneak， 哦，没错，这个字它过去是 snuck， sneaked snuck 都两种都可以。那这边的话，这整句话的意思就是说，在那个命运的一天呢，他没有意识到说，泳池其实很浅，他就是用那种跳水的方式，头着地的撞在这个泳池的底部，然后就瘫痪了。
So the opposite of shallow is deep. I actually knew a person that this happened to. I was really young, and my mom had a boyfriend, and this boyfriend's father also had this happen to him. He was maybe in his 30s, and he dove into a pool, and he broke his neck, and he was stuck in a bed, and I remember we would go visit this person's house, and all we did was watch TV. When you're 9 and 10, you kind of don't understand, but it was so boring. But that's because he couldn't go anywhere. So what did he do all day? He would watch TV because he can't even hold a book. So I was a little kid. I was bored. Oh, I felt terrible. Now as an adult, I kind of understand that it was difficult. This man, his father could not move, and so they just watched a lot of TV together because that's what they could do. They couldn't play cards. They couldn't go anywhere.
没有错。他以前在小的时候呢，反正就是他有知道说，有这样子的一个案例，就发现到说，以前觉得好无聊哦，去医院探病好无聊。可是你要想哦，这个躺在病床上的人呢，他其实也没有办法看书，因为他没有办法去拿一本书，他只能看电视。其实他的人生基本上能够选项是越来越少，几乎是没有了。
Yeah. Thinking back, it was a difficult situation. Little kids sometimes don't understand these things, and that's tough.
没有错。
Okay, let's continue. Ed Jackson ended up hitting his head on the bottom of the pool.
Okay, 他接下来告诉你说，最后呢 he ended up doing something, hitting his head on the bottom of the pool. 就像我刚刚所讲的，他头呢撞到了泳池的底部，然后呢就发生了后来的事情。
When we end up doing something, 我们要加强这个结果. We're stressing this result. Our next sentence says, on the way to the hospital, he actually died and came back to life 3 times. Now, how is this possible? Well, when your heart stops, you are considered dead. And so this really says that his heart stopped 3 times. And so really he died 3 times.
Yeah, 所以在这边的话，他就说在送往医院的途中呢 he actually died and came back to life 3 times. 所以老师刚刚就解释了一下，如果说今天你的心跳停止了，基本上你就是算是死亡了嘛。但是后来又重新开始跳，这样来来回回3次，在鬼门关前这样不断的徘徊。
Ed Jackson was incredibly lucky. Number one, he didn't jump in that pool all by himself. Oh. He would have died in the pool. His father was actually right there. And when his dad recognized, knew there was a problem right away, his father held his body up in the pool and did not let anybody move his son to make sure that his spinal cord was not hurt even more. Then, when Ed Jackson arrived at the hospital, there was actually a doctor experienced in this injury ready. He was just waiting around that day. And because that, his spine didn't swell and cause even more problems for him. It was, I would not a miracle, it was many little miracles.
Yeah, 所以在这边的话，老师跟我们提到的是说，其实他真的是非常非常幸运。第一个就是在当时意外发生的时候，他爸爸刚好在旁边，然后在这个过程救护车来的过程当中，想尽办法，爸爸就 hold 住他的身体在这个水里头，让任何人都不要再移动他的这个脊椎，对不对？不让他受到2次的伤害。然后呢，被送往医院的时候呢，居然在医院刚好就有这种非常厉害的外科医生在那边待命，所以就变成是很多很多的小幸运、小的奇迹，成就他现在能够康复的非常的快。
Okay, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we have even more of Ed Jackson. All right, welcome back to Enjoy English School. We're on day 2 of our Ed Jackson doing everything he can to survive story. We're on pages 34 and 35. Ed Jackson has just dove into a pool and broken his neck. And now it's after his surgery, 他的手术后. Our second paragraph begins, as he lay in the hospital bed, he couldn't move his body from the neck down.
好，我们来看第2段这个地方哦。好了，他接受完手术了，对不对？好，当他躺在医院的病床上的时候呢，他就说 as he lay in the hospital bed。这个 lay 这个字的话，就是 lie 的过去式。好 ，lie, lay, laying 这3个态变化要特别注意。他说他躺在病床上的时候 ，he couldn't move his body from the neck down， 就是在脖子以下的部分，其实他都没有办法去动。
So the doctors told Ed Jackson he would never walk again. There was no hope.
哎呦天哪！所以当时的医生就告诉他说：“你啊，不要再想走路这件事情，没有机会了。”
So the doctors say no hope. What did Ed Jackson say in our next sentence? He didn't give up hope, though.
啊，不过呢，他居然医生跟他讲说，应该是这辈子没有机会再走路了。但是我们下一句话说 ，He didn't give up hope, though. 不过他还是没有放弃。
So hope here is an uncountable noun. We can't say wish. Our next sentence says, after a few weeks, he was able to move his big toe a few millimeters, and that made him even more determined.
好，这句话很重要哦。他说 after a few weeks 经过了数周之后呢 he was able to move his big toe 他居然可以移动大拇指 a few millimeters 居然可以移动他的大拇指呢好，他的几厘米好，这样子的这种情况，几毫米的情况。所以为什么我们的 title 居然是讲说 from millimeters to mountains 这个时候我一看到说原来的我们这个副标题 from millimeters to mountains 这个 millimeter 是这样子来的。好，在这边的话就知道说当他看到他的大拇指居然可以移动的时候呢移动一点点哦，他就觉得说 that made him even more determined. When you are determined, that you make up your mind to do something. 好，就是你认真的去想要下定决心做某件事情。
So Ed Jackson said, wiggling my toe. Wiggle, W-I-G-G-L-E, 就是那个你大拇指动来动去的。So wiggling my toe was one of the biggest moments in my life. And after wiggling his toes, the doctor said, hey, don't get your hopes up. These doctors, they're so negative.
没有错
Such killjoys.
没有错，没有错。所以这边的话，他讲说，我的大拇指脚趾头能动了耶，好开心哦。但是这个医生也跟他讲说，不要期望太高哦，搞不好就是只能动到这样。我觉得这些医生真的是很虽然说很务实啦，也不希望说这个病人有错误的期待，但是也太惨了。
Yeah, but yeah, it's like if this maybe encourage him the best you can. I don't know. It's I understand the doctor's position. It's very difficult.
That's right.
A few months later, he could sit in a wheelchair, and by 6 months, he was starting to walk. A surprisingly fast recovery.
好，接下来就告诉你后续的这种复原的状况哦。A few months later, he could sit in a wheelchair. 好 ，wheelchair 当然指的是轮椅。好，几个月之后呢，他可以坐在轮椅上了。哎呦，居然可以坐了，对不对？然后接下来他告诉你说，好，在这边他讲到说，and by 6 months, he was starting to walk.A surprisingly fast recovery. 也就是说，到了第6个月，他已经可以开始走路了。好，复原速度出乎意料的快，真的是完全打脸他的这些医生们。
walk into the hospital and shake the doctor. So while he was lying in the hospital bed and wiggling his toes, and the doctor saying, "There's no hope," he wanted more physical therapy. He wanted more help from his doctors learning to move. But his Jianbao, the national health system in England, would only give him 4 hours of help a week. Jackson heard that in the US and Japan, they gave even more with better results, and he begged them for more. And they said no. So he's like, okay, get me out of the hospital. I'm going to do it myself.
哇，所以你想想看，很多时候就变成是他想要积极复健的时候，因为这个英国的健保可能只供应到可能一周4个小时，对不对
？Right.
4 hours, right? 然后到后来的话就觉得说不对啊，在日本啦，在美国都给的比较多啊，你可以给我多一点吗？不行，那好，没关系，那我就自己出去想办法自己复健，自己想办法康复起来。
Okay, let's take a break here. And when we come back, we have our third paragraph. Let's learn about what happens to Ed Jackson after he starts to walk. All right, we're back with Enjoy English School. It's day 2 of Ed Jackson doing everything he can to survive. We're on pages 34 and 35. Ed Jackson left the hospital. He was told there's no hope. 6 months later, he's walking by himself.
没错，我们上一个段呢，我们在讲到说，原本他是被告知说，完了，你这辈子不能走路了。后来他移动了这个脚趾头之后，发现到，脚趾头可以移动几毫米这样子。好，医生就说你不用期望太高。但没想到6个月之后，他就站起身来，他可以走路了，真的非常非常快。
Let's continue to our third paragraph. 1 year after his accident, Jackson managed to climb Mount Snowdon, one of the tallest mountains in the UK, but he didn't stop there.
好，再来我们看第3段的开头，他说 1 year after his accident， 好，在意外发生后的1年之后呢，好 Jackson managed to climb Mount Snowdon, one of the tallest mountains in the UK. 好，他就开始去爬一个叫做斯诺登山。好，他这个是在英国其中的一个非常非常高、最高的一座山。但他呢，他并没有就爬完这座山好了就不爬了。But he didn't stop there.
So when we say we managed to do something, that means we were successful, but it was not easy. So, for example, if you're a student and you get a 68 on your test. Yes, you passed, but you only managed to pass. You didn't get a 98 or a 100.
没错，所以 manage to do something 有2个含义哦。第一个东西就是这个东西基本上应该蛮难的，不太容易 ，you're doing something difficult. 然后第二件事情是 you manage to do something 就是勉勉强强的能够做到，勉勉强强能够通过考试。像老师刚刚提到说，这个一个学生 manage to pass the test， 代表是他勉强低空飞过这样的感觉。
Let's go to our next sentence. He went on to climb taller mountains in Europe.
好，下一句话就告诉你说 He went on to climb taller mountains in Europe. 意思就是他还是继续攀登欧洲其他更高的山脉。
While doing so, he raised thousands of dollars through his organization or group, Millimeters to Mountains, M2M, for people facing mental health challenges or physical disabilities.
好，再来我们看下一句话，他说 While doing so, 在他不断的去攀登去挑战各个其他欧洲山脉的同时呢 He raised thousands of dollars through his organization. 他的 his organization 就是他所创立的这个组织。好，透过这个组织呢，他已经募集了几千元的这种英镑，然后他告诉你说这个 organization 的名字是 Millimeters to Mountains.M2M 这边可以稍微注意一下，这边的 millimeters 它的这个拼法，尤其是 ME 它是 TRE 是 meter， 因为在欧洲的话他们拼法是 METRE， 但是在美式的这种念法拼法的话是 METER， 所以这里的话你会注意到一些拼字上的差异，所以 millimeters to mountains M2M 就是他所创立的这个机构的名称 For people facing mental health challenges or physical disabilities 是用来帮助许多身心障碍人士去克服他们的难关。
That's right, Anthony. So millimeters is pronounced the same way. We say it the same way, but it is spelled differently. In my magazine, I circled millimeters to mountains, the millimeters, M-E-T-R-E-S, and 我画到一条线到我们的副标题，那个 millimeters to mountains in the subtitle. So we can see this, our副标题, our subtitle is not spelled the same way, and we can kind of remember that. I wrote USA in our 副标题, and I wrote England next to our name of our sentence here.
没错，所以这边的话特别注意一下这个拼字上的差异，因为毕竟它的名字机构的名称还是就像是专有名词一样，我们要按照它原本的拼法。
Now, physical, P-H-Y, is about moving. You know, PE class, probably physical education. P-H-Y is 动作。Disability 可以画一条线在 D-I-S 的下面。This means no or not. So this person doesn't have the ability to move correctly.
Yeah, 没有错。所以这边的话你会看到 mental health， 它这边提到的是这种心理问题啦 mental health challenges， 或者是 physical disabilities。 老师刚刚介绍了 physical 那个 PHY 跟身体有关系，对不对？好， disability 的 DIS 是没有的意思，没有的 ability 就是失能的状况。
M2M's aim or goal is to help these people by reconnecting them to nature with hikes and other outdoor activities.
好，这边的最后一句就告诉你说呢，这个毫米到山脉 M2M 也就是他所创立的这个组织呢，他的目标是希望让这些人透过健走啊，还有其他户外活动与大自然重新建立连结，借此来帮助他们。
小心大自然 is nature. If we make it an adjective, it becomes natural. The A 会不一样。
没错，要特别注意 nature 的那个 A。好，如果说变成形容词，它会变成 natural。好，在这边要特别小心一下，这个 A 的话，它会随着它的词性而有所变化。
Okay, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, let's wrap up our final paragraph. All right, friends, it's time for more Enjoy English School. Let's finish our final paragraph here. Even today, Jackson can't use one side of his body well, and he can't feel the other.
OK, 我们来看最后这一段哦。他说，即便到了今天哦 ，even today, Jackson can't use one side of his body well. 其中的一侧身体呢，还是没有办法可以好好的活动。And he can't feel the other. 另外一边呢，是完全没有感觉，所以其实他的瘫痪状况是真的很严重的。
Yeah, so Ed Jackson has other difficulties too. So when he walks, he has a special device, a little machine. It picks his left foot up. His left hand doesn't really work, and he can't sweat from the chest down. So he often feels too hot. And also, he can't control his bowels. That means he can't control when he goes pee and poo. That's a normal problem for people with this kind of injury. But think of what he can do. The doctor said you have no hope, but here he is. And that's amazing.
没有错。所以说今天刚刚老师有简单说一下，其实事实上他左边的这个脚有没有，他还需要一个机器把它抬起来，然后甚至他的那个胸部以下他其实没有办法排汗，所以他常常会感觉到很热。即便有这样身体上的限制，虽然说很多的医生都宣判说你这辈子应该怎样怎样的，看看他现在能做到的事情，所以真的是很厉害。
Our final 2 sentences. He often falls down while walking still.That hasn't stopped him from changing the world.
我们来看最后这2句话哦。他说 He often falls down while walking. 他走路的时候呢是常常跌倒的。Still, that hasn't stopped him from changing the world. 但是即便如此，还是没有阻止他去改变这个世界，还是有提供非常非常多的这种激励人心的这种故事。
Good job, Ed Jackson. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we have vocab review.All right, friends, it is time for vocab review, and our first word is to dive.
To dive 就是指跳水的意思，这是一个动词。
Number 2 is an adjective, shallow.
Shallow 指的是很浅的。
Number 3, determined.
下定决心去做什么什么事情。
Number 4, recovery.
Recovery 就是指复原。
Number 5, to manage to do something.To
manage to do something 就是很勉强的做到一件很难的事情。
Number 6 is also an adjective, mental.
Mental 指的是心理的。
Number 7, disability.
Disability 就是失能、残疾这样的状况。
And number 8, outdoor.
Outdoor 指的是户外的，常常提到 outdoor activities 户外活动。
We can make this a noun by adding an S, outdoors.Or we could say the great outdoors.
用这种方式用 outdoors 加 s 的话去表达也是可以的哦。
Now that's it for today. And that's it for me this month. You have more this month?
No.
Well, I guess we're all done then. Okay, Enjoy English School. I'm Chris Gorski.
I'm Antony.
Happy February.
Yay. Bye-bye.